Oh, hello. I have that post church glow. Just went to church and I'm going to do something really heretical, which is I got my tarot cards. um but I don't really go to church. They gave me a chocolate. So I think I'm going to eat my chocolate. Oh, hello. Somebody's here. Yeah, I just got back from they're gone. I just got back from church. This is Major. Yum. Hello, person. If you can comment, try to use the chat. It doesn't always work. So I don't really go to church. And hello. I've talked to you on the comment section before. Sorry, he's trying to eat my chocolate. The dogs aren't allowed to have chocolate. Hi, Mr. Boy. Out of the way. Strange girl from Germany. You know what? So my mom, her maiden name is Nemi, spelled with a G. And she's allegedly supposed to be like 100% Italian. She has like an uncle Guido, like they're all from like Italy. He is cute, yeah. He looks like a tiger, and his sister Mars looks like a hyena. But yeah, my mom is supposedly Italian. But then, and like her grandpa, like they're fresh off the boat from Italy. They're supposed to be Italian. But I did a 23andMe test, and I was 85% German. So I'm like, what? I was only like 6% Italian. I should have been like 50% Italian. But I was really German. Yeah. So Aryan blood, yeah. I guess so. Yeah. Anyway, I was going to talk about church. I just got back from church. He's really pushing in. I just got back from church. I don't go to church. I only go to church when like my life is in shambles usually. And I don't know why I really went to church. Maybe I went to church for my boyfriend. Where am I originally from? I am originally from Detroit, Michigan. But then when I was like 12, I moved to Texas. Yeah. Then I moved to Texas. And the first place we moved to was San Antonio, Texas. And then I moved on my tarot cards, which is, I was saying this is kind of heretical because I just went to church and now I'm going to pull some tarot cards. And we've moved to San Antonio, Texas. And then we moved to Dallas, Texas. And then when I was 18, I moved to Austin, Texas. So, yeah. And then I lived in Austin until I was 26. So I lived in Austin for 8 years. And yeah. But I just got back from church and well, the first person to greet me was a man named David. He looked to be about 85, 86. What places you like the most? I liked Austin the most. And then I moved then I moved to New Zealand and lived in Wellington. My church story. It's exciting to go to church, you know, you get to sing and you get to think about Jesus and God and but actually so the my two favorite places that I've lived is Austin, Texas and Wellington, which there's a lot of similarities between the two. um I would say I think Austin is a little more hippie vibes, and Wellington is a little bit more like goth vibes. In terms of the people, the place that I liked living the least was probably Dallas, Texas. I hated Dallas. It's a bunch of like Republicans and like people with like big hair and like a lot of Botox and big cars, like big trucks and all that shit. Like, yeah, but I think Austin was good for me at the time when I was living in Austin. It was a good place to like take mushrooms every day and like just walk around and like do yoga, swim in the river, go to like little house parties. It was a good like college. It was good for like my 20s. And then Wellington was a little bit more like goth and serious and intense, I would say, which was a little more appropriate for my late 20s. I do not like it here. No, I don't actually. We live in a rural good place to grow up, I understand. Yeah, no, we live in rural like middle of nowhere. Um New Zealand, like most people here are like dairy farmers and factory workers and industry workers. Would I go back to the US? Mm, we can't really go back to the US because my partner has a criminal record. I have a criminal record in America too. I shoplifted when I was 18. I was a terrible shoplifter. I used to steal. I've stolen thousands and thousands and thousands of things. I was on a lot of Adderall in my teens, so I would just get really high and and steal. Yeah, I stole a lot of shit. I was really good at it too. But I started to get sloppy at the end. I got a little too confident. And then I ended up and then I got caught with marijuana. The tail light of my car was out. Like one of my tail lights was out, so the police stopped me. I was like a minute away from my house. I was also drunk, but I was stoned and my car reeked of weed. I remember I had just been fingering my girlfriend outside of like a cantina. And I remember I went to jail and I remember I was like smelling my finger um, that's not very Jesus-like. I shouldn't say that. Ha ha. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. So I was smelling my finger in jail. Jesus Christ, yeah. Because I was like just trying to like stay positive. And that was keeping me happy. The smell of her pussy. So um yeah, that was when I was like 20. Wait, when did I get caught with marijuana? I got caught with just a little tiny bit of marijuana. Um but yeah, they still sent me to prison. So I stayed overnight at prison. So that's on my criminal history. But my boyfriend has a criminal record. So if we go to the States, it's probably unlikely that he'll be able to get a job. So I don't think that we will go to America unless we win the lottery or something. I think we're pretty much stuck in New Zealand or Australia, because New Zealand and Australia have this kind of like agreement where you can like work in Australia as a New Zealand citizen, and you have kind of like citizenship in Australia. Like you have residency, or you can like very easily like jump. So a lot of people jump between Australia and New Zealand. I had a boyfriend in Eugene, Oregon in my 20s. Yeah, my my brother lived in Eugene. Actually, he went to school there. Um yeah, I like Oregon. Oregon's really pretty. That sucks. We're stuck in Germany. It's so demotivating when you can't go to where you want to live, actually. Yeah, where would you like to live if you could live anywhere? If I could live anywhere, I would live in like Peru. I feel stuck for years now. Yeah. We've been here for, he's been here for 3 years, somewhere south. Yeah, I want to live in like the tropics. I would live in like Bali or warmer climates. Yeah, same. The cold weather really gets to you after, like, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, so we had like snow in the winter. And in Southland, like here where we live, in New Zealand, it's like it's pretty cold. You probably do Celsius. It's like in the winter time, it's like 5 degrees, 6 degrees for like 6 months. And but this summer's been all right. It's been about like 20 degrees. Where you can actually make a living. Yeah. Yeah, uh the woman who introduced us. So um I got a psychic reading when I was 24 from this woman who, you can look her up. Her name, here, I'll write her name in the chat. Paulina Astrology. You should look her up. She's really good. I got a reading from her like 7 years ago, or whenever I was 24. So I'm about to turn 31. I got a reading from her. And then we became really good friends. And she introduced me to him, they dated when she was 21. And why was I talking about her? What did you say? Warmer climates. How's the weather in New Zealand? I forgot why I'm talking about her. She introduced, yeah, so, and so she lives in Peru, and she is originally from Russia, and she moved to New Zealand when she was like 14. And then she and then she traveled the world for like a couple years. And then she's recently settled into Peru, and I think she really likes Peru. Every time I see her, she's swinging in the hammock. And somebody else is here. If you want to say hi, you can talk in the chat. The chat actually works this time. Thank God. Sometimes my chat doesn't work. It's really weird. I have a lot of technological difficulties. That's why I've been going live lately, because actually when I try to record videos, it doesn't always record. I get a lot of spooky stuff with like technology not working with me. A lot of my technology ends up breaking down. My whole life, technology just kind of stops working or glitches out around me. So it's better to go live because, yeah, it just ends up working when I stream, and the whole recording ends up saving. But yeah, anyway, I went to church today, and I think I just wanted to get high. I wanted to get high off church, and I effectively got high off church. The first thing we did is there were 12 people there. So I actually walked to church. So it was a Presbyterian church, and it's in our little town. And I walked there. There were 12 people there. A man named David greeted me. He looked to be in his mid-80s. And we chatted for a little bit. He told me that he's been living here since he was a kid. So he's lived in rural Southland his entire life. And he said he's been going to this church since he was a teenager. And he's got a really strong relationship with Jesus Christ, which I find to be a little, I just feel like Jesus was probably a mystic. He was probably just a really mystical guy who was probably psychic and maybe a bit schizophrenic. And he was probably very compelling in terms of like being a leader and getting people to like listen to him. He was probably a very good talker and leader, had leadership quality, strong leadership qualities. When I think about Jesus, I'm like, I don't necessarily feel that inclined to worship somebody. He just seems like he was enlightened maybe. But I do like God. I am a fan of God. But I don't know exactly what I feel about Christianity. I went to Catholic school when I was a kid. Just because it was better than the public school system. And yeah, I remember I used to faint in church a lot when I was a kid. We had to like kneel on the pew, kneel on that thing that you pull out of the benches. And I actually got a reputation as like an 8-year-old for like constantly fainting whenever we had to kneel on that pew. And nuns would have to carry me out. And that's a weird little memory, but yeah, I remember like in Catholic school, we had like a religious studies period during the day during primary school, and it was I remember just not really none of it because my parents are both, like, atheists, I think. I think they've gone through periods of believing in God and periods of not believing in God, and I think they've landed on atheism. My parents actually really worship money. I was thinking about that today. I was like, "What do my parents?" Because I was seeing all these older people, um, and I'm like, "I think my parents just kinda worship money." And so this it seemed so my mom would have considered church a waste of time because she could have been spending that time figuring out how to make money. My parents are very money oriented and success oriented. But on church, there is Jesus on the cross. I mean, that's just so obscure, praying to him while he's in that position depicted. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think we worship in society, we worship pain and struggle because I think we can all relate to pain and sacrifice. I feel like everyone is sacrificing themselves for their jobs and for their children and for their partners and stuff like that. So there's something about that sacrifice, but those types of killing people on crosses was actually a common practice back in the day. In Jesus's time, like it wasn't just like that's how they would like kill people is like they would hang them on crosses like that, or that's how they would torture people back in Jesus's time. Um, but yeah, I think that everyone's a little bit of a martyr. Everyone's like kind of lashing themselves. So I think that some a little bit of Christianity gives me like a weird feeling because I feel like built into it is this like feeling that um, you need to suffer for like there needs to be suffering in life in order for it to be a meaningful life. Something to that extent, something about suffering built into it. Buddhism has its own degree of suffering and like hard work, and I think life can be a lot more easy and kind and gentle. Um, but it was nice. So the church, so we sang like, oh my God, we sang. They had a projector. This is such a small congregation. They can't really afford, or they don't have enough people to have like the Christian rock band like up there. So instead, they had a projector on the wall, and it was like karaoke style words, and we like sang like 6 songs, like 6 full songs standing up. That's just weird. All the guilt and suffering and fear they create. Yeah, yeah, and the whole thing around sin. Did you know before church there was matriarchy everywhere? I did not know that. Before church there was matriarchy everywhere. That's a little hard to believe actually. Um, just because women are biologically weaker than men and end up having to spend a lot of time raising children, it doesn't seem like women would be in powerful positions. It happens, but it's been like a rare exception throughout history. Um, just because men happen to be like bigger and stronger and more projective with their energy. Men are typically more and they're more laser focused type of uh, energy. So I would assume that men would take on leadership roles more commonly than women. But if there was matriarchy everywhere, I mean, fuck yeah, that sounds cool. So we sang songs, and then we watched a video on a projector about friendship. And then we discussed among ourselves we read a verse from the Bible about how Jesus told his disciples to call him a friend, that he wasn't their leader, that he was instead their friend, and he wanted them to his disciples to refer to him as a friend. And then we talked about what friendship meant to us. And then we talked about diversity. We actually talked about having friends who are different than you are, and we discussed among ourselves why it's important to have friends who are different than you. And I just mentioned to them, I was just talking about preschoolers and how preschoolers sometimes you'll get like the odd couple, like the Samoan boy and the British girl. We have a Samoan boy and a British girl who are like thick as thieves at my preschool. And I was talking about how kids don't tend to see those distinctions that as we grow older become more important to us for some reason. And like kids tend to just take everybody as they are and not really judge people for what their cultural background is or what they look like or before church. Sounds like a cool church thing you went to. Yeah. And then they invited me to lunch afterwards, but I couldn't do that much. I had to go. I had to go. I had my fill. It was an hour-long service. And I was hoping for some like inspiring sermons, but instead we watched some like inspiring videos of other people basically giving us sermons. I was hoping there would be some guy there with a microphone who would really like give me like some inspirational speech, who would give like an inspirational, speech. Because that's usually why I like to go to church, is because I like to hear like a uplifting story. But it was fun to like sing, and I love karaoke, so it was fun to like sing with strangers and to kind of think about Jesus and to take some moments. Church is weird. There's these moments where you just are meant to go unconscious, which is totally unlike what you do in a group of people, or you literally close your eyes and you're going elsewhere. You're going into like spirit. You're like in this like state of prayer. It's like you're going in and out of consciousness, and then you're singing, so you're having like these moments of ecstasy. Church is like a really good way if you want to get high for free with a group of people, and connect with a group of people and just talk about being a better person, and talk about, like, we talked about friendship, we sang songs. I don't think too deeply about the real implications of too much socializing. Hey, in the end, you had some nice time there. Yeah, like at the end, I was talking to David and his wife, and like I'm a Capricorn, so I love talking to like old people, because like there'll be like pregnant pauses when you talk to an old person. There's just a pause of like recognition, and you don't really have to say anything. Like no one's like trying to like fill the silence. You can just kind of like stare off into the distance, and then he would have another like thought that he would say something, and I'd like, yeah, I'd acknowledge it, and then I'd say a few things, and then like I love talking to old people because you can just kind of be like a little bit like, I don't know. I feel like when I talk to younger people, you got to be like keeping up the pace and keeping up the this and that. But when you talk to old people, it's like It's a lot slower and more contemplative, and nobody and they're not trying to like impress you. So David wasn't trying to impress me. He was just speaking his truth to me, and he was telling me about his life a little bit. I was telling him a little bit about my life, and it was nice. And yeah, and friendship is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. So actually, I'm going to call my best friend today. I haven't spoken to her in like 2 months. She told me to call her, so I'm going to call her. She said anytime today, so I'm going to call my best friend today. So this theme of friendship, and it was, so I found that was a synchronicity because I'm going to talk to my best friend, and they spoke a little bit about best friends. They said you can only have one best friend, and Jesus had one favorite disciple. He had 3 people in his inner circle, and then he had his 12 disciples, and good friends, great friends, and best friend, a best friend. It's like they are naturally on weed, thoughtful and dropping meaningful words. Yeah. And yeah, and they don't like judge you. They're not judging you. And I love talking to old people. I just like to talk to anyone who's a little bit tired. You know? I like to talk to people who are like a little bit tired or a little bit slow in the brain. I like to talk to people who are a bit slow in the brain. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna pull tarot. Maybe I'm just gonna keep it a Jesus themed day. I think I might go buy a Bible and read the Bible. I like the Bible. I bought a Bible when I had psychosis and I was reading it, but I left it in America, so I might buy another Bible and read it. Just because, and he was telling me he has a relationship with Jesus, and he said he was talking about how he considers Jesus his friend. And he says, yeah, it is a bit one-sided. And I was thinking, I've spoken to Jesus. I've in my mind spoken to Jesus. I've spoken to God. I've met angels. I've spoken to angels. Like, I've had dreams about angels. I've had dreams about God. It's not really one-sided for me. There's like an exchange. I love that. I usually have a longer delay in thinking. Yeah. I think I'm a bit slow in the head, but actually I can be quite fast in the head when I'm in my own inner spiral. But I do like a slow conversation. And a slow, thoughtful conversation. Yeah, like you're smoking a doobie and like you're just sitting there with like somebody who you are really comfortable with. Yeah, that's how I spent most of my 20s. So I'm really comfortable with people who are high or really old or intoxicated or people who are depressed or people who are obsessed or addicted to something or people who are in some kind of state of like dishevelment mentally. I don't like to talk to somebody who's like too like on their game and like blah 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 blah. Like I don't like. I'm like, ooh, too much. That's too much. I miss that. Yeah. I guess I miss sitting around and lounging about and smoking pot and having like long philosophical conversations with your friends and just about life and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to talking to my best friend. We usually pick up right where we left off. Her name is also Julia. We met each other in physics class in junior year of high school, or actually sophomore or junior year of high school. She's my best friend. And there were 3 Julias in that class. And the other Julia and her were like really good friends. And then I came there and I was like trying to tell her like this other Julia, she's not all that. She is not that cool. So slowly she started gravitating towards me. And by the end of the year, we weren't even talking to that other Julia, which looking back, that's not very nice, but she was pretty boring. But I feel a little bit bad about my best friend because I remember when I met her, she used to dress like Audrey Hepburn, and she wouldn't cuss or swear. And she um, didn't want to do drugs. She didn't want to smoke cigarettes. Her mom was basically a pillhead who's chain smoked. And I got her to smoke her first cigarette. I introduced her to weed, and she eventually went on and she took it really far. She went and she became a heroin addict, actually. And she was in and out of rehabs for um like 5 or 6 years in her 20s, and I barely heard from her. She was in like toxic relationships and in and out of rehab, and I would randomly get a call from her every now and then, but I don't think she was doing very good. She's had a couple suicide attempts, and but she also hears voices too. We have a lot of similarities. She hears voices. Would you like to talk to me anytime live? Would you talk to me anytime live? Yeah, I would talk to you anytime live. Um, live, like what, on the phone or something, or what? I'll talk to you. Oh my. You think you were a bad influence? Yeah, I was a bad influence. I didn't care about anything. I was like into nihilist literature. I used to read Nietzsche and Kafka and Sartre and Dostoevsky. Wore all black. By the time I was 16, I was like already feeling very. Zoom on. Don't do that. Don't put that shoes on. It's her life and her decisions. Yeah, yeah. But I don't think she would have gone that direction if she hadn't met me. Because I was also taking a lot of Adderall. So I had like this really strong personality. So I had a lot of people who were gravitating towards me and who were like following me a little bit in my late teens, and we were all kind of getting into trouble, and I was orchestrating a lot of those these kind of scary situations that we would put ourselves in. And I sort of slowly saw her innocence disintegrate um, as time went on. And but there was a limit to like, I would never touch heroin. um I would never be with a man who abused me. Like, there are certain things that, like, I had limits for, but um she didn't have the family structure to, like, hold her. Like, her mom was always in bed, always chain smoking, and was taking, like, 100 different pills. And her dad was an alcoholic, so she didn't my parents, yeah, they were obsessed with money and success, and they used to, like, fat shame me. My mom sent me to fat camp. She, used to take pictures of me eating and, show them to me. Like, my parents are fucked up, but I came from just a slightly better upbringing to the point where I would not totally self-destruct just because, um, there was a little bit more consistency with my, um upbringing. But her parents were divorced. Her mom had like 3 or 4 different husbands. She didn't really have a chance. She was on the right path. She was like trying to be everything that her mother wasn't, but then she ended up now she I don't know. I don't know. I just feel a little bit of guilt and shame for the way that I handled that friendship, but I didn't know anything at the time. You're like you said, I was just young and stupid, but I don't know. I see. But there's a reason she went that way. Maybe even without meeting you, she would have gone that path with such a childhood. Yeah, yeah, she probably would have gone. At least she would have like probably had to start taking pills. She has a strong family history of mental illness. So she would have probably ended up on antidepressants or something. But she wasn't making the best grades when I met her. I was making better grades. I always made better grades than her. As crazy and nutty as I was, I made really good grades, and I was in all the advanced classes. I was in the gifted and talented program. And I didn't really attend school as much as she did, but I made better grades than her, and I got into better college than she did. She went to community college, and I was going to a state school, and I was on the track to going to the best school in Texas. But I fucked that up with drugs and alcohol. But yeah. Anyway, that's all in the past. I don't really dwell on it too much. I'm just happy that she calls me, and I'm just happy she's doing well now. She's got a graphic design degree. Oh, and this is where, because with all that software now that can like generate images, like generate amazing images in a matter of seconds, I just feel like graphic designers are really gonna struggle. I was also a fine artist when I was in high school. I can draw photorealistically. Like I can look at a photo and draw exactly what I'm seeing. Um, so I used to do a lot of photorealistic art when I was in high school. And she kind of dabbled with art. She wasn't really, this is no offense to her, and I hope she doesn't see this, but I never thought she was a very good artist. I always thought I was better. I always thought I was a little bit better than her at art. But yeah, she developed her skills over her 20s, and she actually is a lot better at art now than I am. And because I stopped doing art when I was like 20. Actually, I did a little bit of art in my 20s. I would get high and do these like crazy collages. Yeah, AI is making media art people totally jobless. I studied media art a few years ago. Yeah. Um, yeah. So she was thinking that would be her ticket out of minimum wage work. So she's worked in the service industry her whole 20s. She's now 30. Um, so she went to school at like 26, 27, and I think she's finally got her degree, but it's like just as she got her degree, all this AI stuff started coming into the picture. So I'm like, I don't know. All right, well, I think I'm gonna hop off. But yeah, maybe if you catch me on another live, we can keep talking, and yeah, maybe we could do a Zoom chat. I don't know how to, is there such a thing as private messaging on YouTube? Can I do can I can you private message me? Because we could like text and then maybe do a Zoom chat or something. I don't know. But There's this one guy. What's your Instagram? Oh yeah. Okay. Here, I'll put it in the chat. That's my Instagram. But yeah, I think I'm gonna hop off. Somebody else is just watching me. Do you want to say hi, other person who's watching me? I love having long hair. I've always had long hair my entire life. I never had short hair. It's like your nerve endings are like really long. It's like an extension of your body that goes out to like here. It creates this kind of swirly energy. So anyone who has long hair probably has a different life experience than somebody who has just short like hair that flips really quickly. If you have long hair, you're a little bit more like this energetically, I feel like. Okay, I'll catch you there. I will catch you there. Okay. Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye.